today I'm going to film my January wrap-up. Now, the very first book I read this year of 2015 is also one of my favorite books of all time, and that is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. This was a reread for me, and it was one of my resolutions for 2015 to reread this classic. So I'm kind of proud of myself that I already did it. The thing that I love about this book is the fact that it has so many emotions in it. It is unbelievable. It also evokes so many emotions in the reader, at least in me whenever I read it. It deals with Anna Karenina, who is married and she has a child. However, she meets another man and she falls in love with him. The thing about her marriage is that it was kind of forced upon her. She didn't really love her husband, but she decided to marry him anyway because that's what you did back in Russia in this time period. I think it's in the 1800s maybe. So basically this book deals with adultery, with falling in love. It has a lot of themes in it. It doesn't only revolve around Anna Karenina and her lover, it also revolves around other characters. I was actually surprised that the other characters were my favorite. I didn't really like Anna Karenina that much. I liked her in the beginning, but she became kind of annoying a little bit. But I still really appreciated this book, and even though it's huge, I highly recommend that you pick it up if you have any interest in it whatsoever. After that book, I was in the mood for something completely different, so I decided to pick up Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas, the third book in the Throne of Glass series. I always forget the name of the series, I don't know why. This is a green book. I don't know why I mentioned that. It's a green book and it was an enjoyable read. I will admit that this is much more about world building, but I kind of like that because I think it's so important in a fantasy series to have a lot of world building. And this one obviously deals with Selena, our main character, who is an assassin. I'm not going to give away too much else. If you haven't read the first book, then do it. If you like fantasy books and young adult books and just an enjoyable read, then this is the series for you. I think it has been praised a lot, I will say, so it seems to be a lot of people's favorites. I ended up giving this book 3 stars because it was very enjoyable, but it was nothing extraordinary in my eyes. And by the way, Anna Karenina I gave 5 stars. I'm sorry if you can hear my cat talking. He's just very impatient right now. I just need to film this last bit, Zeus, and then I am ready. Maybe I should just show you. Do you want to see my cat? Because he seems like he wants to be seen right now. This is Zeus, who is my sweet little darling, and the light is really uncomfortable to him right now, I think. So, have you said hello, Zeus? Okay. As usual, my cat steals all the attention. The next book I read in January is You Disappear by Christian Junkersen, who is a Danish author. I actually went to a seminar in which Christian Junkersen spoke himself, and he spoke about this specific book, so of course I had to pick it up afterwards. This is about a husband who suddenly realizes that he has a tumor in his brain, and this specific tumor changes his personality, so he becomes this different man whom you cannot recognize. And then we follow him and his family, but actually this is written from the wife's perspective, so we follow the things through her eyes. That alone is very interesting because to me this is a book about how illness can affect the family, and it was definitely a very interesting read. It is kind of scary to think about the fact that if you have a husband who suddenly changes his behavior, you don't know who you're living with, you don't know who you're sleeping with, and that is incredibly scary, I think, also for our main character, Mia. I ended up giving this book 3 stars because even though the story is very interesting, the writing style wasn't the most perfect. I had some problems with that. But another thing is that it comes with interesting pictures and letters and emails and pictures, as I said. So that just adds to the story. Then I picked up 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. If you have read anything by Khaled Hosseini, you will know that he writes heartbreaking stories. This one is no exception. This one deals with Miriam and Layla, who live in Afghanistan. They have nothing in common in the beginning, but their lives entwine, and their lives are quite horrific. Zeus, please be calm. Okay, that's my cat playing. I think the reason why Khaled Hosseini wrote this book is to tell the reader how life in Afghanistan was during the Civil War, especially for women. And I think it has a very important message in it, so please pick it up. It is beautiful, and I gave it 4 stars. Next is The Last Letter from Your Lover by Jojo Moyes, who is very famous here on BookTube. She has become very famous lately. I have known about her for years. I have read her other books, so I was very interested to pick up this one as well and see if it was great as well. This one basically broke my heart. I did not see this book coming because the very first chapter was horrible. I'm sorry to say, but it was so cliched. It was a typical chick lit chapter about a modern woman who has some problems in her life. She has an affair with a man, and she receives some text messages from him that are not very encouraging. And I was like, okay, sounds like your typical chick lit adult fiction novel, but I wasn't really that much into it. Then the second chapter started and I was blown away, and I'm not going to say too much else other than it deals with 2 women, a modern woman and a woman from the 1960s, and it is beautiful. Please pick it up. It is so stunning. And I gave this one 4 stars. Next I picked up White Oleander by Janet Fitch, which seems to be a lot of people's favorite book, so I had to read it myself, obviously. Zeus, hey! No! This book deals with... I always forget the main characters' names. It's horrible. But it's about a main character who is a foster child. We meet her when she is about 11 years old and her mother is imprisoned, so she has to go live with a foster family. The thing is, she has to live with a lot of foster families during her teenage years, and they are not very nice to her, so it basically deals with her growing up while having to deal with all of these families. It is... this book made me speechless. The story in itself is unique and beautiful. I've never read anything like this before. But the most beautiful thing about this book is the writing style. I have no words. It was impeccable. And I wrote a review on Goodreads. Maybe you should go check that out because I don't know what to say right now. I am at a loss for words. So definitely one of my favorite books. And I gave it 5 stars. Now let's move on to the books that I read on my Kindle. And the first book is The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. This is a fantasy/sci-fi adult novel about a main character who is a clairvoyant. However, in this futuristic world, it is not very popular to be a clairvoyant. I started this book thinking that I was going to enjoy it, definitely enjoy it, but not like it as much as I did. I ended up giving it 4 stars, which is very surprising because I don't read fantasy, I don't read sci-fi novels, and still I really like this book. The thing that I liked about this book is not the story itself. It was basic, it was average, it was okay. But the thing that I liked the most was the world building. This has beautiful world building, and I definitely bought everything about the world in this futuristic world. I thought it was very fascinating, and that's exactly what made me give this book 4 stars. It was very interesting, and I'm definitely going to pick up the second book in this series, which has already come out. I just need to get my ass moving. Next, I read Mr. Penumbras 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan. A book that I have been wanting to read for months now, but I didn't want to buy it. So I finally decided to get it on my Kindle. It is a book about a bookstore, which is mysterious because strange things happen in this bookstore. And our main character works in this bookstore. And of course he realizes that something is not right. This book was amazing in the beginning. I definitely liked the way the setting was created, the mood of the book, the characters. It was splendid. I really liked that. The thing that made me a little bit disappointed about this novel is the fact that it changes halfway. So that means the story and the mood and the setting changes. It becomes more of a crime and mystery novel, and if you like those kinds of novels, that is amazing. But for me personally, I don't really like crime novels, so it was a little bit of a letdown for me, but I still really enjoyed the book all in all, and I gave it 3 stars. Then I picked up a novella, and that is Maybe Not by Colin Hoover, and this is a novella that goes along with Maybe Someday, which I read last year and loved. This novella deals with Bridget and a guy. They are very different, they have very different personalities, and of course they kind of fall in love, or maybe not. You will have to read it yourself and see. I like this book. The thing is, it seems to me like Colin Hoover's books have changed since he did Maybe Someday. I loved Maybe Someday, but since then, for instance, Ugly Love and this novella, her novels have become erotic novels. It's all about the sex scenes, and I don't like it. I really despise those sex scenes. Especially in this novella, we had like a complete chapter about a sex scene and all the details, and I didn't like reading about that. So it was a shame that so much of the book is about that aspect. I'm not interested in that. But other than that, Colin Hoover still writes amazing characters, amazing dialogues, and I ended up giving this book or novella 3 stars. Afterwards, I read an excerpt of WII Swaps, A Darker Shade of Magic, which will be out on February 24th. I didn't get to review all of the book, only an excerpt, so that's what I'm going to do now. It is about 3 parallel Londons, and it is a fantasy adult novel. These 3 Londons are very different from each other, and there is a main character who is able to travel between all 3 of them. I really like this excerpt, and I want to continue reading. The thing is, I don't have the book yet, so I will have to wait like the rest of you, but the appetizer was amazing. Wow, brilliant, and I cannot say too much else because I don't have a lot to judge from yet. Then I read a fantasy novel, and that is The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. This is a fantasy novel, as I said, about a main character who is a professional thief. So this book deals with this thief and his friends and his brilliant plans. He is basically a modern kind of Robin Hood who steals from the rich people, but the twist is that he keeps the money for himself. He doesn't really need the money, he doesn't want it, but he keeps it anyway. This book was surprising because it was entertaining, it made me laugh, and I thought that the plans were brilliant. I loved reading about them, and also when I finished the book, I was going to give it 3 stars throughout the entire novel, but the ending made me give it 4 stars, and that's because this book deals with some amazing topics. I'm talking friendship, revenge, power, brilliance, I don't know. Just a lot of important things in life, I think, and I also like the fact that we follow the main character Locke Lamora from his life today and also from his childhood. That doesn't make sense. We follow a chapter from his childhood and then a chapter from his life today, and then 1 chapter from his childhood and a chapter from his life today. So I like this alternative way of writing. I am not making sense right now, but all in all, I really enjoyed this book. Last but not least, in January, of course, I read Slammed by Colin Hoover, which is a contemporary new adult novel. This book has received a lot of praise. People seem to love it. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it, and that's because I thought it was very basic. It was very cliched. Once again, I thought it has so many scenes in it that were not easy to believe in. For instance, within the first 2 chapters, the 2 main characters meet for the first time, and 3 days later they are head over heels in love. And I'm not saying that's impossible, but to me personally, that is very hard to believe in. I want for a relationship to build up, and I want for us to be able to follow this progress. I will say though, this book comes with its share of plot twist, amazing plot twist, and in the end I gave it 3 stars. So based on the plot twist alone, I would recommend that you buy and read this book. That leads me to the end of my January wrap up. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm like out of breath right now. I have been speaking for an hour straight because I have been filming a lot today. Happy reading everyone, and bye bye!